Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza survives second bid to remove her from office by impeachment, with majority of the 47 senators failing to uphold any of the 7 charges leveled against her by Meru MCAs.
President William Ruto to deliver a State of the Nation address to a joint sitting of the Houses of Parliament today amid public outcry over the high cost of living.
Meanwhile, a pro of a Gazette notice increasing significantly the cost of accessing crucial government registration documents for Kenyans, including national ID, passports and death, as well as birth certificates.
Very good morning and welcome to this edition of Morning Cafe. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. A lot of interesting talking points today, so do stand by for a big conversation this morning as we look at the headlines and the expectations for ahead of the President's State of the Nation address today. My name is Freddie Ndimuli. How hot is the coffee where you are? My coffee is coming, don't worry. And plus, yes, it's exactly 46 days to Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys, and Happy New Year. Well, it's good to have you here this morning. And of course, you can be part of this conversation by interacting with us at TV47 News on X, TV47 Kenya. On Facebook, the hashtag is Morning Cafe. I'm Flora Limuki.
I'm yours truly, Stanley Nyaringita. Yesterday, we did see the success of a woman. And this particular morning, the African proverb is... the success of a man is through the soles of his feet, that of a woman is from her legs.
Okay.
Can I repeat that again?
No.
You can think about that this morning. The success of a man is through the soles of his feet, that of a woman is from her legs. Think about that this morning. We'll also be having a very interesting conversation because it's a Thursday, so we always give you some tips on your relationship, matters cultural, intermarriage. Yesterday, we did see again love wedding, the whole, the first gentleman of Meru being there, right there with Meru Governor. And really speaks largely on how much really love can really win out here. So should you be intermarrying out here, culturally speaking? And should you go out and yonder? Talk to us on our socials at TV47KE on Facebook and Nyaringita _@F Limuki, as well as at Limuki _F at Fred Ndimuli. To the big story now.
Now, the government is yet to deny or issue a clarification on the authenticity of a Gazette notice announcing significant changes in the cost associated with applying a national ID, affecting thousands of Kenyans. The notice seen yesterday indicated that individuals who have reached the age of 18 and who are seeking to obtain national IDs will be required to pay 1,000 shillings for the application process. Now, this, if found to be true, would mark a substantial departure from the previous policy, where obtaining an ID was a free service provided by the government, in what has sparked uproar among Kenyans. Meanwhile, the same Gazette notice that continues to generate a lot of public debate indicates that the fee for ID replacements has surged 20-fold, resulting in a cost of 2,000 shillings, up from the previous 100. Other services affected by the increase in fees, according to the said document, include passports, registration of births, as well as deaths. And yes, the government is yet to deny or issue clarification on the authenticity of that Gazette notice. Let's now get the day's diary before we take a look at the dailies.
Right, and on today's diary, the first of it is that particular national address as one of our highlights. President William Ruto is expected to deliver his first ever State of the Nation address since taking over power in September last year. So according to a Gazette notice, the president will address a joint parliamentary sitting of both the National Assembly and the Senate, and right here, TV47 will be giving you a wall-to-wall coverage of the same, the whole proceedings, even just before, the live pictures before the president walks into the bicameral parliament, and after, and everything that will be happening in all that particular conversation. And still in matters parliament, the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security will today meet with the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Professor Kithure Kindiki, as well as Inspector General of National Police, that is Japhet Koome, on the request for approval by Parliament of deployment of National Police Service officers to Haiti. Another diary concerning the president as well. This day he's expected to preside over an international economic forum right here in Nairobi. We'll also be following on that as well as other highlights. Let's take a look at today in history. And back in 1965, a blackout affecting 30 million people in northeastern states, including New York of the United States and Ontario, Canada, lasted up to 13 hours. And in 1921, Albert Einstein received the Nobel Prize in physics for his services to theoretical physics, and especially for his discovery of the law of the photoelectric effect. Remember, more highlights of this particular diary will be coming your way at around 9 a.m. during the county diary. Right now, let's dig into the dailies. And, well, Daily Nation managed to capture that particular midnight moment for Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza, but Standard, well, was split in between there.
Yes, the Standard went with matters education. Exam queries, as top teacher thrown out. That's a big headline on the Standard today. Questions emerge over the integrity of KCSE exams after authorities revealed they are probing suspected irregularities in Nyamira and Migori counties, even as the country's best teacher was suspended as center manager. Wow. And they have a face of the same teacher on the front page. And the main score for Nyambarari High School in the 2022 Kenya Certificate of Secondary Examination exam as improvement from the previous year's 9.31%, making it the top school in the country. Charles Onyari, the school's principal, who was fitted for that success. The other big story on the front page of the Standard, Kawira impeachment splits Ruto's government. The impeachment motion before the Senate against Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza has divided the Kenya Kwanza government, with two opposing sides slugging out, even as the embattled governor put up a spirited defense. On one side, we have Meru governors led by the MCAs, feeling that Kawira, the governor, should be sent home. Another wing by Public Service Cabinet CS Moses Kuria, who is backing Kawira, dragging Deputy President Rigathi Gachagwa's name into the saga. Yes, they talk about the split, they don't talk about the results. That is on a different paper. Other highlights on the front page of the Standard today. Compensation for Solai Dam victims, owner strike pay deal. Families of adult victims of the May 2018 dam incident will get 1.2 million shillings per individual and 800,000 shillings for each minor in the deal hammered out between the owners and the KHRC, representing 29 families. Elsewhere, harassment, MPs train guns on KRA. MPs to initiate process to compel KRA to review tax cap on personal and household items from 75,000 shillings to 5 million as they decry inhumane treatment at JKIA. On the top strip, what should be in the president's address? Unlike National Day's speeches, State of the Nation address is an accountability statement on security, national values and obligations, basically a scorecard which has been featured on this special report on the Standard, pages 10 and 11. And it ties to our question this morning, where we ask, what do you hope the president will address in the State of the Nation speech? What do you hope the president will address in the State of the Nation speech? You can interact with this question on X, TV47 News, and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. Still on the front page of the Standard, data reveals miners' grave mistakes, and that's in the national pages, page 3. If you flip the paper on the back page of the Standard, Man City and Leipzig through to round of 16. Matters UEFA Champions League. And yes, it does not capture what happened last night.
Yes.
We can move swiftly to other papers.
Sevilla 2-1, and another team from the Theatre of Dreams was not successful.
Yesterday,
there's a lot of pain here.
Yes,
a lot of I feel your pain.
Yes. I mean, yesterday being a Kenyan and being a Manchester United fan was just not
and being a Marian for that case.
Even today, it's still not a good day for you.
Oh, man.
You'll have to suffer for the rest of the week. I know your friend Emmanuel Inonda is also feeling that same pain. And to you too, I say,
it shall be well.
It shall be well.
But it's a tough week for you guys. Oh, man. That's a sad time to be a Manchester United fan.
We are survivors. As Daily Nation puts it, we are survivors.
Yeah. And looking at the Daily Nation, even as Manchester United fans would want to peg, they're surviving to this. Impeachment survivor, that's the big headline there. And twice Lucky put on a defense for most of the two-day trial. Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza denied all 7 allegations leveled against her, citing political witch hunt by local leaders under the orchestration of external forces. And a majority of senators cast their votes with her, handing the embattled governor a lifeline and a chance to continue serving as county chief. But senators fault both the executive and the county assembly. And yes, that is the story on page 4 to 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. Away from that, on the right strip of the Daily Nation, officials hailed as cheating claims rock KCSE exam, and the ongoing KCSE examinations were rocked by cheating allegations yesterday, with some top education officials suspended from overseeing the test and some arrested. And speaking on matters, State of the Nation address, will Ruto raise Kenya's hopes? And as President Ruto makes his maiden State of the Nation address today to a joint sitting of the National Assembly and the Senate, Kenyans will be expecting him to address the myriad issues affecting them. The most urgent being the current high cost of living exacerbated by an unforgiving tax regime and high fuel prices. Kenyans also want the head of state to speak on security, health, and education, among others. And that is a story on page 7 of the Daily Nation. And of course, that will be State of the Nation address pitch will be live on TV 47. And on some matters held on the lower strip of the Daily Nation, new mosquito net to help curb insecticide resistance. And the Global Fund has introduced new treated mosquito nets that are critical in fighting insecticide resistance. That story there is on page 14 of the Daily Nation. And thousands homeless as floods wreak havoc. The number of Kenyans indeed in need of aid as a result of the ongoing rains has increased due to the displacement of thousands of families across the country. That is a story on page 12 of the Daily Nation. Turning at the back page of the Daily Nation this morning, the focus on repayment of debt has bled country dry. This is what the Treasury CS says. The state is also facing underlying pressures like the rising cost of living and the high taxation. Interest rate structure will remain high, making it difficult for Kenya to enter the market for cheap loans. And that is what the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury, Njuguna Ndung'u, says. He was appearing before members of the Finance and National Planning Committee yesterday. Yes, another story on the back page of the Daily Nation. CS calls for a review of health facilities in classification row. And the Health Ministry has now announced plans to conduct a comprehensive review of hospital classifications across the country. Yes, Samata sports there on the upper part of the Daily Nation back page. Kenya's new sensation Kelvin Kiptum targets breaking tour marathon barrier next April's Rotterdam Marathon. That is the story on page 45 of the Daily Nation. And yes, that is what we have on the Daily Nation this morning.
Tuangazie gazeti la Taifa Leo, taarifa kuu pale, moto Kenya Kwanza umekuwa ni mnara wa Babeli, wabunge wakitofautiana na mawaziri baina yao au na magavana. Serikali ya Kenya Kwanza inaonekana kukumbwa na vita vya ndani kwa ndani, viongozi wake wakuwa wakitofautiana, kushambuliana na kukosoana hadharani kuhusu masuala yanayohitajika kuwa na msimamo mmoja. Habari kuu katika ukurasa wa pili wamechapisha picha za viongozi kadha wa kadha katika serikali ya Kenya Kwanza. Senator Samson Cherargei, Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, Waziri Kipchumba Murkomen na Waziri Moses Kuria. Vidokezo vingine pale chini, mkono wa Rais Ruto ulivyonasua wa matangi kutoka vinywa vya MCAs. Rais Ruto alimtuma naibu wake kuokoa hali hiyo kwa masharti magumu, kwamba lazima wa matangi atimize matakwa ya wawakilishi wote wa wadi. Masuala ya kitaifa, vita Israeli vyaingia mwezi wa pili. Hii ni licha ya miito kuitaka nchi hiyo ya Kiyahudi kusitisha vita katika Gaza. Na masuala ya elimu, Machogu aonya shule kuhusu karo. Serikali imezuiwa walimu wakuu kuongeza karo ya shule za upili na za msingi. Yani katika ukurasa wa pili pale juu, matokeo yaliyokuwa kiendelea pale Seneti, machozi kijasho, Mwangaza akijitetea vikali katika Seneti. Gavana wa kaunti ya Meru Kawira Mwangaza jana alikabiliwa na wakati mgumu akijitetea mbele ya Seneti kuhusiana na malalamishi yaliyowasilishwa dhidi yake na bunge la kaunti ya Meru katika ukurasa wa 3. Hata hivyo, taarifa kuu pale, moto Kenya Kwanza.
Let's take a look at the People Daily, and the big headline of the People Daily today is the great expectations on the state of the nation. Kenyans place hopes on Ruto to address high food and fuel prices, unemployment, rising crime, debt, and interventions to cushion the poor. The story is on page 4. It ties also to a big question today, where we're asking, what do you hope the president will address in his State of the Nation address? The other story given prominence on the front page of the People Daily, celebrating freedom fighters. Azimio la Umoja wa One Kenya Coalition leader Raila Odinga there with joining a team there, and a freedom fighter Gitu Kahengeri as he launched his foundation. And the other story, Governor Kawira puts up fight to save her job as she denies allegations of violating the law and preaches reconciliation at impeachment. And those are the stories given prominence on the front page of the People Daily today.
Let's have a look at the Star this morning. The top headline there, MPs in new plot to bypass SRC, decide on parks. And the strategy, the new bill will give powers to Parliamentary Service Commission. Lawmakers are among the best paid in Kenya, taking home almost 1.7 million shillings monthly. And in pictures there, Mau Mau Foundation to award deserving students across Kenya. Yes, let's have a look at what we have on the very top strip of the Star this morning. And I'm the Mount Kenya kingpin, declares former Mungiki leader Maina Njenga. It seems like this kingpin seat is the talk of the town when you talk about Mount Kenya region. And looking at what we have on the left strip of the Star, Kawira whips in emotional submission. That is pictured there, Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza, as well as her husband Murega Baishu there, while presenting themselves before the Senate yesterday during her impeachment motion debate. And yes, her impeachment was upheld, meaning Kawira survived for the second time being impeached. Yes, and another story on the top page of the Star, murder convict hangs himself in Naivasha prison. And away from that, yes, that is what we have on the Star this morning.
Let's talk money matters now on Business Daily. The big story there, Nairobi suburbs house prices fall 10% as Ngong Thika gain. So purchasing power eroded by inflation. Runda, Spring Valley, Kitisuru hit hardest. Other stories, the bottom strip, middle class, ditch spirits, beer for keg on higher taxes. I'll repeat that for our morning viewers this morning, just in case. Middle class, ditch spirits, beer for keg on higher taxes. So you can really take a look at where the taxes are really hitting you hard. On the right side, that sticker, what key numbers say about economy. So 6 out of 7 key economic indicators show the country is in a tight spot as President William Ruto addresses the country on the state of the nation today. And away from that matters economy, Kenya's FDI from Dubai hits 38 billion Kenyan shillings. And elsewhere matters companies, judge throws out 305 billion Kenyan shillings M-Pesa class action case. And finally, on their Life magazine pullout, matters decor suits for colorful Diwali. Right. And that is the front page of Business Daily. I believe now we cross the borders.
Yes, let's take a look at what's headlining beyond our borders, our neighboring countries. Uganda, the Daily Monitor this morning, headlines, Ankole takes most government jobs. Regional imbalance, Equal Opportunities Commission report says with 25% of the working population, the western region of Uganda was found to account for 36% of public sector jobs. There's a big story in Kampala this morning. Other highlights on the front page of the Daily Monitor today, women are still behind in politics, says report. And inside Busia slum ruled by criminals.
Oh, that's in Uganda.
Yes, so there's Busia in both Kenya and Uganda. The other big story there has to do with exams. And bad roads, floods, delay PLE exams. And you see some of these stories just common between across the region.
Yes.
It's examination season and the issues facing candidates in Uganda and those facing candidates in Kenya are not very different. Oh. Well, those are the headlines in Uganda this morning.
Let's have a look at the Citizen in Tanzania. The top headline there, experts do this to build an inclusive economy, and Tanzania needs to take these 4 specific measures. This is according to experts, including formalizing the informal sector to build an inclusive and sustainable economy. That is what pundits opine concerning the economy in Tanzania. And on the top strip of the Citizen this morning, Samia and fellow leaders rally for connectivity to boost investment. Yes, other stories making headlines on the Citizen this morning. Beware of bang-laced food items. That is an article there. And the Drug Control and Enforcement Authority yesterday urged the public to be careful with food products loved by children because unscrupulous people were mixing some of these items with bang. That story is on page 2 of the Citizen this morning. Other stories on the Citizen, government wants envoys' views on criminal justice system. And finally, fresh calls for action against EAC defaulters. And yes, that is what we have on the Citizen this morning.
Tusalie nchini Tanzania, gazeti la Mwananchi. Masuala ya bangi pale yanazua utata. Kiwanda biskuti za bangi chanaswa. Hiyo ndio taarifa kuu katika gazeti la Mwananchi. Wadokeza aidha kuwa mamlaka ya kudhibiti dawa za kulevya yakamata mtandao wa watu 16 wadaiwa kuchanganya bangi kali kwenye bidhaa zinazopendwa na watoto, zimo keki, jamu, sharubati na tomato sauce. Haya. Vidokezo vingine pale, TRC safari za treni Dar zitakuwa 8. Kwingineko pale juu, tume haki jinai yapewa jukumu jipya, na ugomvi wa sindano ya kushonea viatu ulivyompeleka jela. Mwishowe DPP amfutia kesi anayedaiwa kuzaa na bintiye adakwa. And that marks the end of the whole newspaper review. You can get into the caricatures this morning. Page 17 of Daily Nation, page 14 of The Standard, and page 10 of People Daily. Well, page 14 has a satirical stark difference of what is expected today. Page 14 of The Standard. On the left, you have a gentleman there says, "We did, we are, we will." And that is on matter state of the nation. On the right side, the common Mwananchi holding a number of boxes there, and also a huge sack that says taxes, other boxes including price hikes, reforms, ugali cooking oil, graft reloaded, cronies and deals, rising levies, currency crisis, promises and pledges. And this common Mwananchi is just sweating.
Spate of the nation.
That is a spate of the nation.
Spate of the nation.
Not the state of the nation.
Oh, yes.
On the Daily Nation, this uproar by senators with regard to the kind of criticism leveled against them by the CS for Public Service, Moses Kuria. And it would appear he has broken the door into the Senate. And yesterday there was a session, a special session just to discuss his
discuss Moses. I think Moses, sometimes it just looks to poke people.
And I think he enjoys it.
Yes.
When you actually stop what you're doing to discuss
Absolutely.
him. I think that's the whole point, and he managed to do it yesterday.
Yes.
And believe you me, at the end of the day, he came out the winner.
Yes.
He said that he was backing Kawira Mwangaza to survive this impeachment.
Yes.
And he was there to take a photo with her.
Absolutely.
After she was
won.
acquitted by the Senate.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. That's a cartoon on the page 17 of the Daily Nation today.
All right. On page 10 of People Daily, well, similar to actually the same matters, Moses Kuria, a gentleman there that, resembles, caricature that resembles him, saying, "Who will go down first?" And he's walking a tightrope, but this tightrope is about to be cut by seemingly senators. Yeah. So, yes.
There's that threat of impeachment we'll be talking about. Let's wait and see what will happen.
What happens, because even as much as they speak of these ministers being politicizing issues, there's the upcoming UDA elections, and they say that people who are in parastatals actually can take part so that you don't lock them out come 2027. So Moses would argue just acting as in personal capacity.
It would appear he's allowed to engage in politics as well. Interesting discussion today, and part of this will form our State of the Nation address as we look at President William Ruto's scorecard. We do expect that State of the Nation address to be delivered today before the joint sitting of both houses, and we'll be covering that live on TV47 as well. A quick reminder of our question this morning, and I had it somewhere here. Do you support? Okay.
What do you hope?
What do you hope the president will address in the State of the Nation speech? Or do you hope the president will address in in his State of the Nation speech today? Continue interacting with us. Give us your comments and sentiments to this question on TV47 at TV47 News on X and TV47 Kenya on Facebook. Just after the break, we will be having Honorable Dr. John Mutunga, MP Teganya West, Sunday Oyolo, political analyst, and Daniel Orogo, also a political analyst, as we look at President William Ruto's scorecard. Do join us for that conversation. You're watching Morning Cafe. Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV47 with me, Fred Indemule. Great expectations on that State of the Nation address by the President expected today before the joint houses of Parliament. And that will be our big discussion today. We will be sharing with you some of the sentiments by a number of Kenyans that we managed to collect ahead of that. And our question this morning, we ask, what do you hope the President will address in his State of the Nation speech today? What do you hope the President will address in his State of the Nation speech today? You can continue interacting with us on our social media pages, at TV47 News on X and TV47 Kenya on Facebook. In studio this morning, the Honorable Dr. John Mutunga, MP Tigania West. It's good to have you in studio. And Daniel Orogo, political analyst. Good to have you in studio as well.
Pleasure.
Well, a lot has happened overnight. And even before we get to discuss what great expectations Kenyans do have on the President's State of the Nation address, let's address this matter that happened in the Senate at around midnight when voting finally happened on that impeachment motion against the Meru Governor, Kawira Mwangaza. The nation stayed up late and finally got the headline, Impeachment Survivor. Everyone else, I think, had already gone to bed by that time. And twice lucky, put on a defense for most of the two-day trial. Meru Governor Kawira Mwangaza denied all 7 allegations leveled against her, citing political witch hunt by local leaders under the orchestration of external forces. And a majority of senators cast their votes, with her handing the embattled governor a lifeline and a chance to continue serving as county chief. But senators fault both the executive and county assembly. This has been the biggest discussion for the past 2 days. Issues have been raised about the kind of strained relations that county governments have with their respective county assemblies. And I think the perfect example of this kind of strained relations has been Meru County. Tigania West is in Meru. And it's only fair that we start with you, Honorable Mutunga. And what is the feeling now that Kawira Mwangaza has survived a second impeachment?
You see, this happened around midnight, and I've not been able to consult many people. I can only probably tell you what I imagine is happening right now.
That is, it is your sentiment that I want to listen to.
In this respect, I think there's a lot of confusion. A lot of confusion in the sense that this is the second trial failed by the county assembly. So, and of course, the voting patterns at the county assembly were overwhelming, which means they were out to have it happen, but it didn't. I think there will be mixed feelings. There will be celebrations on one side, and there will be a bit of frustration on the other side. The most important thing is that Meru County needs to move forward. Of course, when you saw, you saw what the senators said when they were given an opportunity to debate the impeachment motion, most of them said there is no solution to the matter. Some of them returned to the sender. They said this is a Meru issue. Could have been done around there. We did not need to have it here. And those who spoke, and I think that's something I would like to also say on my opinion on the choice of who spoke. Those who spoke, the greater majority of those who spoke again were against the motion. And they were quite articulate on the matters they raised. And in a debate in the House of Parliament, the first 3 speakers set the mood of the House. There are many who, especially if the motion is not very familiar, there are many who will take the cue from that. But in setting the mood here, they picked on a very small issue, which was completely out of context. In the understanding of the House, it was blown out of context, and I would like to address that particular issue. They picked on the issue of sexuality. And it became now the major issue in the House, and it was not among the 7 issues. So the interpretation was wrong from the beginning. I think the choice of the instruments was wrong. But the side of Kawira Mwangasa were able to prove that is the reason why there is contention in Meru.
Yet the Senate,
that is the most important thing.
The senators got to vote.
That's what they voted on
each of the allegations. Each
yes.
of the 7 different allegations, the votes were separate. And on each instance, senators did not uphold the same sentiments of the MCAs. Do you agree that probably the senators were influenced otherwise to think about other things apart from those set out in the impeachment motion?
I mean, Fred, it's fair that you started with Honorable just to get a perspective because he's probably coming from the region. I stayed overnight watching the debate and the motion just to get a gist of what was being discussed. Probably might not have really got enough time to see what the councils were presenting, but just get a glimpse of what was going on yesterday. I agree with certain sentiments that were made by the Senate majority, Honorable Harion Cheriot, who say that it would not be a mere coincidence that the governor is a second time in less than a year that Meru issue is being discussed in the Senate, and that he urged the governors to listen keenly and objectively and to avoid being torn into party positions, that is the senators, I mean, and give Meru people an opportunity either to have a side that would deliver the services to the Meru people. I agree with the Honorable that amongst the 7 issues that were being conversed around, I am tempted to think that the House must have been emotionally swayed aside by 1 or 2 contentious issues that I personally do not really agree with. There are amongst so many issues that were being discussed. One was the issues of integrity and ethics that has been widely conversed through. And it is said and reported that it is the 3rd time matters of leadership, integrity, and ethics, especially surrounding the governor, is being discussed about. That one, the allegations about misappropriations of public funds, and that the councils were, grumbling about it. They were not really being able to bring it to fore. As to whether that was the majority view of the senators or it was an opinion that was swayed, I think that was an issue that was contentious in the Senate. Of course, the other issues around the demeanor of the governor, I think that was a personal issue, the nature of creature of a governor, but also all over, this has brought issues about the gender card has been pulled, and it's so sad. One of the issues I keep saying that we might be losing very important conversations that are national oriented and that are very important to a country by pulling a gender card. I do not agree with certain sentiments that were portrayed yesterday by the lead counsel, the defense counsel yesterday, by certain quarters, using very demeaning words towards the governor. That, at this position, I said I would not really agree with.
Yes.
But I think also we cannot be sitting down and saying that each and every time a question is brought aside to the performance of a leader in this country, and then everyone wants to pull a gender card.
Is it a question about...
we have seen impeachment motions, and this is not the first time.
But is it an issue of the process of impeachment, that it is said to be a more political process than a legal one? That the scrutiny on the allegations is not as thorough as on the political influences?
In Dimuli, the jury here are politicians. And politicians, who is a politician, a Kenyan politician, for instance? To what extent do they dwell on facts and truth? That's the question you need to be answering here. But let me say something. I want to clear that issue for and on behalf of the Meru people, because I'm a Meru person. I'm a Meru man.
And issues have been raised about.
And the serious issues
Yes.
were raised about the Meru men. And it is it is extremely unfortunate. First of all, the starting stick, that one for starting is for making which. Simple, clear. The second thing is that particular phrase in Meru tradition, in Meru language, somebody tells you, I will star you. I will star you. It means I will disturb you until I make sure you feel my strength. It is basically like consistently pushing somebody, consistently roughing up someone. It has absolutely nothing. But then, when after this function, where this issue came in and there were those stakes were held by some men, the following day there was a huge demonstration in Meru, clearly misinterpreting the same, and they saying what this person actually meant is to do with sexuality.
So at least the misrepresentation.
It started there.
Was in Meru, not at the Senate.
It was brought politically. It was politically brought to basically whip emotions, even down there. And it took the center stage. It took quite some time before we could even advise our leaders to stop using it, to even drop that particular dimension, because sexuality is not an issue you can try to say that you would push a woman on, and in Kenya it would even be emotive. The lawyer must have been very careful to advise that, oh, this one was there, that is it. Unfortunately, some of the witnesses confirmed. They were played into it, and it was so embarrassing for the Meru man, especially. Meru men there's a time I read in report that Meru men in Kenya are the best men, the most caring men. Honestly, most loving, they are protective, they support their spouses and so on. And I believe that is the truth about the Meru man.
Yeah, then going
So
forward.
this was out of context.
Going forward, because now she will have, or at least the Meru County Executive and the County Assembly will have to find a method of working together.
Precisely.
A lot has been said and a lot was exposed during that session with the videos and the sentiments, and everyone was looking at Meru and thinking, what?
We are mad people.
What is happening?
Imagine,
It will take a lot to heal the divide.
It can only take a lot. It will take a short time or a long time, depending on the attitude and the after actions of the governor. The governor is the one who is right at the center of everything now. If she wants it to trivialize the entire issue and demystify it and get Meru moving, she will call all signs and they will heal. There will be a healing process will start. But should she choose to be antagonistic and continue demeaning the other leaders and continue playing down the MCAs and others, I'm telling you, it will take a long time and it is potentially explosive.
Daniel, at least the one thing that we've learned is that impeaching a governor in Kenya is not going to be that easy.
Yeah.
Because the feeling is that MCAs and county assemblies across the country taking advantage of the fact that they are able to impeach a governor, and they're using it to hold their county executives at ransom, making demands, especially on the ward allocation fund, which is not provided for in law. The fact that, and even the genesis of this disagreement in Meru, before even the first impeachment, had a lot to do with that allocation, the ward allocation fund that is still being debated. It is said that even the counties that enjoy relative calm is because the governors have already given into those demands by MCAs. Do you see this as a vindication for the governors? And should it be the gateway to us having this conversation, that we delink the county assemblies from any direct contact with development projects, apart from their role of oversight, representation, and legislation?
I mean, and I've been very consistent, trying to get the root cause of the antagonism, that is now emerging in different county governments, and I think it's all over. It probably is something that is spreading through the counties. In Baringo, just a few weeks ago, Siaya,
Kiambu.
Kiambu, It took,
Nyamira.
Nyamira, it took a lot of time, yes, for even the elders to try to, dialogue between Governor Nyaribo and the rest, in the Nyamira County. But my issue is that the expectations, investigating what is going on in the county, is the load that the county members of county assembly have to fulfill their promises to the people. You have in certain counties in this country where a ward is so expansive, so big, and a member of county assembly is expected to deliver with the promises that he made to the people. These expectations, and by the fact that the Constitution do not give a mandate to the members of county assembly, to have a role in rolling out development projects, is a problem. Before our Constitution, you remember this era of councillors, where a councillor had got a very, big role. He could legislate as well, he could represent, but as well having a kitty that would roll out development. But now Constitution eke out that responsibilities and gave it to the county executive, not the county assembly. And it's taking a lot of time for the citizens to internalize that if you see a member of county assembly walking, that member of county assembly has no mandate at all to bring down the water tanks to you, to dig down the trenches to you and the drainages, that member of county assembly, that you line up each and every day to their doorstep asking about, fundraising for different school fees, for different measures here and there, is not having the same kitty that is assigned, for example, to a mbunge or an MP that have got NGAF, National Government Constituency, Development Fund, to their disposal. So this is actually compelling the members of county assembly to have a pushback with the governor, either to try to get, tenders to do this work, for them to have enough resources to provide to the people, or alternatively to get favors with the governor, so that each and every development initiative rolled out by the governor, they would claim the credit for it, just to quell the tension that is coming after the elections. And like you've alluded to, that has been the mounting tension that began in rolling out and has been surmounting in Meru and probably in different counties that we are having a limelight too. My consideration, therefore, is that while the governors are yielding into these demands, they also need to be very careful that, one, they might not be able to sustain these demands, because there are so many members of county assemblies that would want these demands at the same time. Secondly, they might also be trying to secure, their peace, because the members of county assembly are now holding them to ransom because they once do the oversight and even do the approvals for the budget in the counties. Once this is not done, then they hold the governors, the county executive, into ransom to give their demands. You've heard among the 7 issues that have been traveling plans, for example, and allowances. Governors are into this quagmire, and for example, luckily but impeached, then it is the role of the deputy governor to take over through. So if there is an impeachment motion, even the office of the deputy governor should be on the pedestal. This one should be investigated as well. Okay. Yes.
But this debate about allocations to constituencies and to wards has been a national debate. The Supreme Court made a pronouncement on the same. It is a matter before the National Dialogue Committee, yet we've not seen the discussion about the ward allocations being given time as well. Are we not messing up with the Constitution, which clearly stipulates what the roles of the MCA should be? And if at all we allow them to exert their influence to that extent on the county executive, then we would be defeating the whole intention of the Constitution and devolution.
We normally act as a result of prior information, as a result of what we are used to, the history, and as a result of the developments there before. What has been happening in Kenya is that, and of course our interpretation of polity. Polity is interpreted as to cause or bring development to the area of jurisdiction. So if we look at the past, there has always been a chain link. It's a chain reaction when you are elected from a specific area, constituency, whether in a ward or a parliamentary unit, then you must bring development to that area. So polity and development are intertwined. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the Constitution has not mandated, has not enabled the MCAs especially, and even the laws of Kenya have not enabled the MCAs to have a fund. In fact, the MCAs are entirely dependent on the executive right now. They don't even have a separate kitty the way probably the parliament has. Parliament has got their own resources, they use their own money, they plan their own things, and they do what they go as per the plan. But the county assemblies do not, as that now, they do not have their money. They rely on the governor, and of course, prioritization depends on the relation issue. So, development at the county level, therefore, edges a lot more on relationship. How do I relate with the governor? What does the governor feel about me? And the governor, does this MCA support me? Is he aligned? Mm-hmm. So those are the issues. So the complication about the Meru County is that Governor Kawira Mwangasa was elected on an independent ticket. So she doesn't have any MCAs. And those who are elected and are independent are not in any way linked to her. Mm-hmm. So they are also independent. So all of them are independent are independent. So the first thing she needed probably to do, if I were her, I would have made sure that we build bridges with everyone, and so that we see how we can have the county assembly operating without a lot of independency. Mm-hmm. Now, because somebody must bring development to their backyard, now they must be able to convince the governor to do something at the backyard. When you are not a lot more relying on set standards, plans, and implementation of these plans, and you're relying a lot more on how do I relate with so-and-so so that I can cause development or I can respond to their request, then contention comes in and builds up. Because some people feel dissatisfied. And of course, it's not dissatisfaction born out of feelings. It is a dissatisfaction born out of the push for development in their backyard. They are pushed by their people. What have you brought to our backyard? That's the main issue. Okay. So the Kenyan politics, I think when you look at the way the MPs were able to come up with the CDF as a law, which are now trying to integrate into the constitution, yes, then it tells you that the MCA as well, and you see, there is a CDF for the member of parliament. Mm-hmm. There is GAF for the women representatives. Then the MCA is the only member, and then the governor has got their, of course, their allocation. The senators and oversight fund. We are trying to bring in oversight fund. So MCAs needs to be considered for what they are calling the World Fund. Okay. And all problems will be solved. First of all, to be independent in terms of their funding, in terms of their resources. The assembly has their own money too,
That in itself also raises questions about the separation of powers between the executive, the legislature and the judiciary, and whether there is a proper provision in our constitution for us to mess up with that balance of power. But time now for us to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation, even as we look forward to looking at President William Ruto's scorecard ahead of the delivery of that State of the Nation address later this afternoon to the joint houses of Parliament. You're watching Morning Cafe. Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimuli. I'm still in studio with Daniel Orogo, political analyst, and Dr. John Mutunga, MP Tigania West. Joining the panel now, Francis Wanjiku, a lawyer and also a political and legal advisor. Francis, you missed out a very interesting discussion we were having about what happened last night, late into the night, the voting in Senate that ended up saving Kawira Mwangaza, the Meru governor, from that impeachment. And I'd want you to chime in briefly, even as we conclude this issue of the impeachment process. There's a lot of questions asked about the impeachment process, and it is said that it is more political than legal. Yes, issues have been raised, 7 allegations, and even though we saw the Senate try to probe and listen to each and every charge that was brought forth, at the end of the day, they were only required to vote. And how they voted did not really matter on the provisions of the law. Do you agree that probably the legal bit of this discussion is lost when it comes to impeachment?
Thank you for the invitation. I think yesterday was a very big moment for Kenya and also for the Senate of the Republic. What I've noted about this new government, I mean the government that was elected after last year's general election, is that they are keen for governors not to go home, and that is a silent policy. So if you look at the voting patterns during the petitions that have been put before the Senate in terms of impeachment by MCAs, you will see there's a keen direction whereby they will do as much as possible to save governors. And I think that is where this government stands at a stronger pedestal than the former government. In the last regime, we saw it was quite easy to send governors home to bring tyranny or a bit of misgovernance within the county sector after a governor has gone home. So I can say yesterday was a win for the Senate. I can say the Senate has very few opportunities to show its hand. But yesterday it showed that MCAs cannot take this country wherever they feel they can take it. The Senate must be watchful, the Senate must be careful about where it's going, and therefore those people who thought the Senate was weak, was the weaker body of parliament, now they can feel like truly governors have a place to call home, and that is the Senate. Okay.
Daniel, anything to add on this issue?
My problem, my concern is that, like we've said, the MCAs are the ones that are on the grassroots dealing with a number of issues. Their observation, their plight, their concern can only be heard on a platform that we had yesterday and throughout, where they petition and where sometimes they express their opinion, their dissatisfaction, by trying and sending the governors home and sending them to the Senate for hearing. I am, however, very skeptical by the fact that anytime the senators would want to express their opinion contrary or whatever they feel is happening to the counties, they bring it to the senators. What the senators can do is to tell them that we are in charge and these you guys cannot have your way. This is why I am still for the opinion that however there are 7 issues that were canvassed on this impeachment motion that was going on, I feel some of them we lost it yesterday on the Senate. Matters that are dealing with ethics, matters that have been even have affidavits that have been sworn, I think the country lost an opportunity to objectively hear what is going on, not only in Meru, but in other counties, in the context of governors, carrying out their functions in accordance with the Constitution. And even as this is thrown back to the people of Meru, I am still, however, thinking that there still be contestation in that county. Because the senators would say, fine, the members of county assembly would say, fine, the senators are out their way, but she's coming back to the county, which would still call for another, even if it's not an impeachment, I still feel that there is a need to be proper reconciliation between the county executive and the county assembly of Meru people. Otherwise, there will still be a call, and what other sections of senators were saying, we might reach a point where we will be forced to to ask for disillusionment, I mean the dissolving of that county government, so that the people of Meru would be given an opportunity.
That would make a lot of sense. We've seen it happen in Makueni when Governor Kivutha Kibwana and the MCS could not agree on a lot of things during the very first cycle of devolution. If this bad blood persists in Meru, would you support a proposal to dissolve the county of Meru, the county government?
Before I answer your question, there is something that is disturbing me quite a lot, and I believe it is disturbing most of the Meru people, like failure to prove relationship. That this is your sister. They say the photograph is not good enough. I know the burden of proof is an issue, and the law, we say the law is a mule. Law is a mule, and it doesn't understand many things. So Meru people know these individuals who are adversely mentioned are relatives. They know. So when you tell them that Senate could not see that, you see, many people will be confused. Mm-hmm. There are very many things that went around, and the admissibility of evidence is a challenge. And this has set the bar so high for any county assembly that would want to move in that direction. And I think the message
Isn't that a positive thing that we
the message home is that county assemblies have got to be very careful. You see, impeachment is the last resort. When you cannot completely work with the governor, that's when you go that direction. And in some cases, when you realize that the reason why Meru people have come, I mean, Meru County Assembly has tried this, from my understanding, is that sometimes the relationships are so strained. The functions do not go the way they're supposed to go. There is so much mistrust, there is nepotism, there is, it's like you are orphaned development based on how you relate with the governor. So that being the case, then many people will ask questions. You mean it is not possible for...
And if at all it persists, then dissolution is an option.
The idea of dissolution is something that now needs to be looked into by the county assembly, the members of the county assembly, because it has huge ramifications. Because the moment you dissolve a county assembly, you send everybody home, including the governor. Everybody goes to look for votes. And therefore, there, it very much depends on who makes the point to the electorate. And the chances, of course, of having those people, depending on the story that the campaign strategy, the campaign slogan, the campaign theme that is propagated, then it clearly defines, it can change the entire equation. So it's a risk, it's a huge risk.
It's a political risk for those involved, yet for the people of Meru.
But for the people of Meru,
may be wishing that they get to make
the easiest way out, in my very considered opinion, the easiest way out is reconciliation. At this point in time, is reconciliation. Put all the differences aside, stop fighting, stop competing, sit down and reason. And we have tried that many times. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we don't know what will happen. Because if you remember the Meru senator in his address, he clearly saying that there's a problem. Mm-hmm. We need intervention. And he called upon the head of state to come in. The head of state and tried, Drew, of course, his deputy, to intervene. And it reached a point where, of course, when we thought everything was done, then still very huge differences emerged. Okay. And so it all has to do with how much development am I securing from this government.
It's a matter of wait and see how the people of Meru and the county government, as well as the County Assembly of Meru, now conduct themselves going forward, now that the Senate has elected to save Governor Kawira Mwangaza for the second time in less than a year from impeachment. But that will leave for the people of Meru. Let's now move to something that will affect the rest of Kenya. And this has to do with the expected State of the Nation address by the President this afternoon before the joint houses of Parliament. A lot of expectations, a lot of outcry. Coming from a week where the price of fuel, the CS came out and said it's going as high as 300 per litre. In Tanzania, it's not. In Uganda, they say your pricing is off. And so many questions about what is happening, the high taxation. Yesterday, or the day, I think it was the day before, there was a Kenya Kwanza meeting in State House, and it is said, it is reported that even the MPs were concerned about the trajectory that the cost of living has taken, and they expressed the same to the president, who flatly said subsidies will not work. But now, today, he will be addressing the whole nation, not just MPs. Our question today is, what are we hoping the president will say? He's been accused of making endless promises. Do we expect more promises today?
Before we answer that question, we have to look for the position of the State of the Nation address in our constitutional framework. And there's a good reason why the framers of the Constitution made sure that the State of the Nation address is made before a joint sitting of Parliament, is to show that Parliament is where everything happens. It's the kitchen of the nation. It's where the laws come from. It's where, if the people of Tigania are seen to be represented in Parliament, it means that their issues are raised in Parliament. Therefore, when people are watching TV and they expect to see the president, they expect to see the president speak about national, international issues, as well as their own local issues that they are facing within their local constituencies. Therefore, if you look at the Constitution, it talks about what the president is supposed to say in terms of state of the nation. And it specifically talks about the president giving a report to Parliament on the realization and progression of the national values under Article 10. That is very clear. It is not for the president on a free tangent, on a free will, to say what he wants to say. He has to make a report on the progress of our national values. And the Constitution clearly states what our national values is. And among them is where we are in terms of rule of law, where we are in terms of democracy, where we are in terms of integrity, transparency, and other national values. So for today, I think as much as we want the president to speak about those things, the most pressing thing about the moment is the economy. And if you look at the campaign by the candidate, President William Ruto, and let me just declare I supported his campaign, you will note that a majority of it was about the economy. And that's where he was able to beat other competitors, because he was the most vocal candidate about the economy. Therefore, people don't expect him to move away from that discussion. But then, if you noted, after being elected, the conversation changed a little bit. It moved from the economy, it went to taxation. So that is what that is the trademark of the president at the moment. So people are expecting him to say something about taxation more than what he's saying about how bad or good the economy will be. So how the president is able to manage the expectation of Kenyans, I'm waiting to see. But people have also to distinguish between today's moment and the budget-making process moment.
Okay. If he decides to go according to the provisions, solely according to the provisions of the law, as Wakili here has rightly stated, and steer clear of the pressing needs of Kenyans, talk about the rule of law, where we are in terms of national values, and forget about the issues that affect the pocket and the heart of the Kenyan. Do you think the president can dare do that today?
No. Not absolutely. I mean, it's quite, not so many people come out in public and say, I supported the president in his campaign.
Yes, only the bold are doing so.
Rightfully, as currently things stand. I mean, that is the boldness from the side of Wakili. Even those who did that would not even want to do that now. But apart from fulfilling, the provisions, Article 132, that requires the president to give, address and the progress made with regards to, Article 10 on the national values and principles of governance, on matters of, security and, international issues. I foresee a situation, one, when the president is an opportunity. He's accustomed to this tradition. He served as a two-term deputy president. He's been in parliament, for some time, and he's seen how previous regimes have done it, and the one that he served as a deputy president. There's a temptation for the head of state always to blow the trumpet, always, especially because this is their moment. This is his moment to solemnly speak to the republic. And we are coming at a situation where people have walked out of a head of state in the process of delivering the State of the Nation address. I think we saw this in different parliaments, in different regimes. I am tempted to think it would be very interesting to hear from Honorable Member, because a parliamentary PG, the PG was summoned a few days ago, probably in the anticipation of something in Parliament that was projected that may have happened. Either parliamentarians would sleep in the process of the national address because of the usual things, or that they would murmur in the form of, as the president would be delivering. I don't know. I don't know why this was convened. But the issue that is of concern is economy. Remember that President Kenyatta provided, a stimulus package when he was just exiting to cushion the citizens of the Republic, post-COVID. Like Wakili has talked about, President Ruto read on a campaign of, the dynasties versus the hustler nation in terms of trying to make, economic equalities and people participating equally in building economy and cushioning, the citizens that are seeing from the lower cadre. This is what the president is expected to give a report on. What I am expecting, ideally today, is with regards to the matters of principles of governance, that the president would give into account the state of fighting graft in this country, the state of public servants and corruption. How much have we been able to recover by those who've gone through the assets that have been recovered in this country? Because that is the report that is expected in the country.
Okay.
A
lot will be said about the conduct of members of the Houses of Parliament, and because the same way they are said to have raised these issues before the president during that parliamentary group meeting, they were the same people who had the opportunity to review some of the proposals by the executive, especially through the Finance Act 2023. There's a lot of criticism leveled against especially the National Assembly, that you passed this, then you go to State House to complain. Today he is coming to Parliament, and he will be telling you probably what you already know. What do we expect from you and your colleagues today, apart from applauding the president?
First of all, at the PG, nothing about the expectant address was expunged. Nothing was discussed. Many other things were discussed. Probably some might find their way into the speech, but there was no reference. That's first and foremost. Secondly, the Kenyans' expectations are many. And especially right now, Kenyans will be looking at how is the Kenya Kwanza government, my government in this case, going to reduce the cost of living? And what are the initiatives that have been put in? And there are many. How are we going to tackling the issue of escalating, petrol or oil prices, and so many other issues? Now, coming back to your question, when it was time for questions during that meeting, of course, one of us, we had intention to talk for some time, so we did not even have enough time. So we agreed that we were going to have a thorough, longer, lasting PG, where we shall exhaust all the issues, and all issues will be responded to. Because we come from a background where people are pushing us and asking us questions, and we need answers, and answers from the person at the steering of this bus. So we, as members of Kenya Kwanza, have a plan. The government has a plan. This plan, the expectation was to find a country that is stable economically, and a country that is ready to move. But the reality was very different, and it was put to the fore of the Kenyans. Kenyans had know exactly what was found in Treasury, how much, the levels of indebtedness.
It is more than a year later.
These issues. You don't solve a problem, you don't solve a 1.2 trillion debt in a year. The issues have changed. The Kenyan economy is not operating in isolation, it's operating in relation to other economics. Anything changing, especially in America, let me be very honest with you, if they change a little bit of their interest rate, it has a direct effect on anyone who uses the dollar as a benchmark.
Okay.
So that's an issue. And it's an issue that we cannot control here. And if you look at a country like America, they have, in the last maybe 5 years, they have changed their interest rates about 11, 12 times. So those are issues that have affected us. On the other hand, some costs are determined outside Kenya. For instance, the cost of fuel. The cost of fuel is determined from the countries that sell. Now, the changes in cost of fuel, it's not a Kenyan issue. There is very little we can do apart from maybe subsidizing.
Even the central bank itself has indicated that the cost of fuel has gone down in the last 1 month. To some level.
Let me say something.
Yes.
One thing we should be asking ourselves, is the government doing anything to contain the situation? If you look at the management of the inflation, the government has done a lot to make sure that this inflation moves from double digit to a single digit and slowly moving downwards.
Okay.
That's really important. The other issue that is key is the development infrastructure the government is setting up to be able to reach people. First of all, create jobs for Kenyans as per the promise to the hustlers. The second thing is create opportunities for Kenyans. The human resources, especially because we are actually lauded, and not just lauded, it is true, it's a fact that we have about the best human resource in Africa. Okay. And this human resource can also be exported out there. The president is always out on missions of looking for opportunity for Kenyans. And some have already been
And that
declared.
is what we expect the president to come and say. But
Fred,
let me,
time to
yes,
talk about, because I think we are not really...
Let me get more sentiments
Yes.
from other people about their expectations. And a section of Azimio members of parliament have threatened, threatened to walk out of a joint seating of Parliament today when the President is scheduled to address the nation and present his first year performance report, unless he addresses the pressing issue of high cost of living. Now, this, as MPs allied to the Kenya Kwanza administration asserted that the President is cognizant of the fact of the challenges posed by the high cost of living, saying that steps will be taken to address these issues, particularly regarding the high cost of fuel and the streamlining of the debt sector, among other key concerns. Here is Elizabeth Mutuku with that report.
President William Ruto is expected to address a joint sitting of Parliament in the National Assembly chambers tomorrow 3 p.m., this being the first year scorecard since he took over power. The address comes amid challenges of high cost of living and skyrocketing prices of fuel, with a section of Azimio members of Parliament threatening to walk out of the chambers should President fail to address this matter.
Cost of fuel is high, and now they are telling us it's likely to hit 300 shillings per litre. Which country are we living in? And are you telling me it's only because of the wars we are hearing that we are the only country suffering? The answer is no. There's so much that we are not being told. And that's why we say tomorrow, Mr. President, we expect you to tell us what actions, what steps as a country you are going to take to lower the cost of living.
So basically, I think we're on the wrong track, but we expect things that are positive. If they are not positive, like my colleague has said here, we are going also to take measures to send a message to the government.
However, their counterparts from Kenya Kwanza Brigade are optimistic amid the challenges witnessed in the country. The president will address the matter and clearly come up with a solution to streamline the issue, which they insist is a global matter. During the address, President Ruto is scheduled to report on all measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of the national values referred to in Article 10, as well as submit a report for debate to the two houses of Parliament outlining the progress made in fulfilling the international obligation of the Republic.
If he does not handle the issue of fuel, then the rising fuel costs coupled with the rising foreign exchange rate will eat into his efforts, and that will lower what he has, lower the gains. Yes.
The address also comes in the wake of ongoing bipartisan talks, with MPs stating that would be keen to see if the president will pronounce himself on the matter, with speculations of referendum come next year.
We need to be more convinced that why are we holding these talks instead of, and why do you have, because remember we have a parallel constitutional amendment bill in Parliament, addressing some of the issues that are being raised at the bipartisan talk. So why the duplication? Are we likely to go into a referendum? Because those are things that Kenya really want to know about. Of course, Kenyans will be looking to hear from President himself.
The expectations are so high from members of parliament ahead of tomorrow's presidential address, with the question of high cost of living still lingering in the minds of many, with hope this is going to be streamlined. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47 Palm Biddings, Nairobi.
Even away from members of the parliament, we also got to sample some views from members of the general public on their expectations and feelings about what the country is going through and what they hope the president will address. Let's get to sample some of that.
Tungeomba zaidi. Tumeona makamu wetu wameenda kutafuta kutafuta soko. Tungependa hiyo juhudi zidishwe, kwa sababu wakati wakulima wana negotiate na mnunuzi, iko na nafasi nzuri ya kupata pesa zaidi.
300 kwa lita moja. I think huu ndio wakati rais anafaa kutangaza, aseme kuwa hiyo subsidy ambayo ilikuwa imerudishwa na mafuta iteremke, tuone kama gharama maisha iteremka.
Naomba tafadhali rais, sisi naongea sana kwa upande sote ya pikipiki, mafuta iko juu. Sasa hii kazi iko chini.
Unga saa hizi siwezi nikafodi sasa kununua unga kama kitambo.
Tunamuomba atupunguzie maisha katika Kenya. Sisi Waturkana ni watu ambao tunaumia. Kuna watu hata chakula ya siku moja ya siku hawana.
Before campaign pia alikuwa hapa hivi, alikuwa anasema hii barabara ya kwenda Loima atajenga wakati alikuwa deputy president. Mpaka sasa hii barabara ya kwenda Loima hajajenga.
Yes, those are just some of the sentiments we managed to gather from members of the public on this issue. Back to our discussion here in studio now, Kili, a lot has been said about the role of Parliament and this issue of the cost of living. They've been criticized on one hand, simply rubber stamping any proposal coming from the executive, and on the other, heading to State House and appearing to beg for the president to do something different. Especially when it comes to their own selfish political issues, that because the issue they were raising yesterday was that it is affecting their own popularity. Do you think that Parliament, on this issue of the cost of living, Parliament is the weakest link?
It is true. I can say it is true that Parliament is the weakest link when it comes to oversight of the national executive. And the problem is that Parliament did not start failing in 2022 when they were elected. Parliament has failed. If you look about our national debt problem, it means Parliament failed 10 years ago. So what has Parliament been doing to recover its national face? I can give you an example of the last finance bill or the Finance Act. Parliament received a proposal by the Treasury to bring in the Housing Fund, which was a contribution which at the end of the 7 years, you'll get your contribution back. When it went to public participation, and the economists and people from public finance told Parliament that this money will not be recovered because you will not have made any money from the housing, you will not have made any profit, therefore you'll be unable to give back to the people this money with interest. What did Parliament do? Parliament went back to the kitchen with the National Treasury and decided that the Housing Fund was a tax. So it means that Parliament already slept on their job to protect the Kenyan public. And I am not foreseeing a situation where Parliament will come out strongly and tell the president, you are doing the wrong thing. And this is why. If you look at the people leading the PG, the government's PG, they're the same people who are leading the last Parliament in terms of chairs of committees. And I can give an example of Honorable Ishungwa. Honorable Ishungwa has been a chair of, I think, is it the Budget Committee for a very long time. He was the chair when the SGR was being passed. He was the chair when all this mess was coming through Parliament. And he was defending the government at the time. And it's on parliamentary record. can he come now out and say, I was wrong 10 years ago? No, he cannot.
Okay.
Therefore, I think Parliament will continue being weak as long as it's the same people being at the top of Parliament.
What is your assessment of the actions of Parliament, especially on this issue of cost of living?
I mean, well put. And I think we've been in this platform just trying to, vet the Parliament with regards to its mandate and the quality of representation that we've seen so far. I mean, as an institution, because that is an arm of government, that the Constitution envisions that should be, independent as well, but of course, relating well with the other arms of government. Apart from, being, because honorable member will tell you there are things that we say are so ideal and the reality that catches up with you once you're in the House. But I think supposedly we have an independent Parliament. We are looking at the two houses, that should be making a decision independently. Fred, we've seen a situation where we suspect that the Parliament are in captive of the executive. Just like we are saying, the executive at the counties are trying to muzzle the county assemblies. We are seeing a Parliament that presumably receive orders from the executive on what to do, to pass certain laws, to amend certain laws. So I foresee a situation here where the struggle to have a majority in Parliament possibly foretells that whoever gets a majority, the tyranny within the Parliament, would have his way all over in the executive to do whatever he wants. So I foresee a situation where we must brainstorm on the quality of the elected leaders that we have in Parliament. And these have been very open about. But once again, it also comes to the people, because parliamentarians do not find themselves there. It's a process of an election. It's a process of political parties vetting who to take there. So a complete diagnosis of the functioning and proper constitution of the House, both at the National and the Senate, is bequeathed on the people to elect leaders that they would want to hold to account, to also deliver, because the Constitution says that we could represent ourselves. You can go to the Parliament, but since we are many, we are not able to do that. And therefore, that is why we elect Honorable Member of Parliament to speak to a certain constituency on their behalf. So that means, in his view, in his character, in his composure, he should be representing the people there. So once he begins to receive an order from certain quarters, then that betrays the will of the people that is elected of him. So I foresee a situation and agree that this has been the weakest link that we have, both the National Assembly and the Senate, with regards to representation. They have been doing oversight through the parliamentary committees, but have we had a parliamentary committee where it was Silvanus Osoro is on record saying that, for us to have passed that bill, you know what he did? He said that on public record. Yes. What did he do? He went, and I'm quoting what he said, that money was exchanging hands to pass the finance bill. That was Silvanus Osoro. And it is. So if we have sentiments like this, then what is the trust that we have in Parliament?
Mheshimiwa, the fact that the President is required to go before the joint houses of Parliament speaks to the position of these houses on all these matters, the importance of and the role of Parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate. The fact that all this criticism, and it appears that we are unanimous in our criticism of the houses of Parliament, you must agree that to some level, Parliament has ceded ground, especially to the executive, to the extent that it has been reduced almost to a rubber stamp of the President.
I don't think so, and with very good reasons. First of all, Parliament rarely generates policies. See, when you elect a government, you put a government in place, there's a head of state and his assistants, there are ministers and so on and so forth. You expect, because they have a mandate to deliver development in that country. So you expect this head of state to have his cabinet to think through policies that will deliver the agenda of the country. And the agenda of the country must be ratified by Parliament. So Parliament will not generate the agenda. So it is not possible for us to say that we will not work with the executive, so that whatever comes from the executive we reject. That is why there is the need for majority and minority, or the government and the opposition. Because the government position needs to be interpreted, needs to be understood, and needs to be supported if it makes sense to the members of parliament. There have been instances where if something is not clear, it doesn't really see the light of the day. I want to just describe the process briefly for the Kenyan. First of all, a policy proposal comes from executive to parliament. This policy proposal is committed to a committee of the House. The committee of the House, because it will affect all the Kenyans, goes out to engage Kenyans according to Article 118 of the Constitution on public participation. Gets the Kenyans involved in giving their ideas and thoughts on this particular issue, and then brings back and writes a report which therefore is supposed to be read by the members of parliament that they may be able to debate, and is given time. You don't have a report today and then you debate it in the afternoon or the following day. It's given at least a week or 2 weeks. So members of parliament are at liberty to fish out these reports and read them and then critique them. So when it comes to debating, they critique these reports. Now, when it comes to the quality of debate, which has also featured in this conversation, and the quality of leaders, let me say quality of leaders. In a political contest, you may not define, Kenya has failed to define who actually should be elected in what position. Apart from the governor, where you must have at least a degree, when it comes to parliament, the National Assembly, I think that has been so far. Why has it been that way? And why do we feel like it's almost anybody probably can represent the people? It is because, first of all, the people who are charged with the responsibility of interpreting issues to the other members of parliament are knowledgeable. If you look at the chair of finance is qualified, the chair of budget is qualified. I'm the chair of agriculture. I have immense agricultural background. So first of all, we must have somebody or a team that is able to interpret these issues. Because the moment you register on the day of entry into parliament, you declare your background, you declare your experience, you declare your competencies. So the choice of committee that you're going to sit in, whether as a member or a leader of that committee, will definitely anchor onto your background. So there is absolutely no risk. Absolutely no risk. Now, maybe what you may say here is, do these members of parliament actually engage? Do they familiarize with the documents? Do they engage these documents to the extent of articulating them to the point of, no, being able? That's now the question of the individual. It depends on the individual there. It's not really. So debate, the quality of debate is really an issue that we need to think through. And I think the House of Parliament has been meeting often to discuss. Once in a while, members of parliament are also taken for capacity building retreats, and also a lot more of the exposure, which you call the benchmarking exercises. Okay. But this helps a lot. They help members to grow very fast, to be able to articulate issues and to be able to lead them. If you look at the best leaders we've had in this country, Martin Shikuku, look at those who could debate for 5 hours. They were not as good as probably the kind of parliament we have right now. So that's why the quagmire is. That's what the problem is.
Okay. Yeah. And there's a lot of expectation on today's event, and the significance of it is the fact that it's even provided for in our constitution. But just how consequential will it be for Kenyans? Because probably we expect too much that you're not going to get. Is a president really required to tell us anything that will be significant in as far as changing the way our lives are?
What I can say is that for Parliament, I think it is almost like a premeditation before the president comes back in the, I think, February, March next year on budget reading. So it sets a stage for them to know what is this government thinking? What is the direction that this government is taking? And I think what will take center stage today, part of it is international relations. How Kenya interacts with the international global community. One of them is sending the police to Haiti. I think that will come out in the president's speech in terms of why is it that I want Parliament to approve my plan to send the police to Haiti? Because I don't think the president has gotten an opportunity to address Parliament on why this is important for Kenya. Secondly, I can say at the end of this month, there is the Global Climate Conference in, I think, UAE, Dubai?
Yeah.
Yes.
COP28.
COP28. I think Kenya is one of the most represented countries at COP, every COP. I think I was in COP26 in Glasgow, and you could see the amount of representation Kenya sent to Glasgow. to the level of MCAs attended the global event. So I think this gives an opportunity for the president to set his climate agenda and say, this is where I want Kenya to be when I go to Dubai. And you could see he has also given us a holiday. I'm sure it's part of the agenda of going to COP. Yes. So apart from international relations, I expect issues to do with security to come up. And this is especially with issues going on in terms of terrorism within the Upper Coast and also within Baringo region. So the reason why I've highlighted those two issues, I think the president will likely steer away from the economic discussion, because I don't think he sees light at the end of the tunnel, because his advisors have already said that Kenya is in debt. And if we do not add your taxes, then it means we are going to default.
Yet he's required to also offer some hope to Kenyans. And the Daily Nation has a headline that attributes to that. Will Ruto raise Kenyans' hopes? He cannot afford to steer clear of the economic issues, but will he, because he's been accused of promising a lot and delivering very little, will he be looking to offer hope? Maybe
make a drastic announcement. In previous regime, we would probably expect a subsidy. Would previously probably expect, an announcement on the lowering of maybe prices of some commodities, or make a but like you said, it's not a budget issue. This is a State of the National address. I don't see, except for a raft of measures that is already taken. Mheshimiwa is talking about that some of these things are already being done, which I think for me, I see him just explaining to the citizens already measures that he pronounced on how, just giving an update of it. I don't see any probability of, the president, because when he met, the members of parliament, there were questions. He said matters of, certain drastic, making economic drastic decisions are out of questions. He talked about taxes. He told maybe a PG that some of these are just out of question for him, because that is what we expected as a nation to be looking at. I don't see him making that kind of an announcement. However, the only, since it's a political platform, I foresee a situation where he will also update the country on the national dialogue that is going on, because this is more seen as a unitary action post, mandamanos and all these things, because this is what he will say, that he is as a symbol of national unity, that is reached out to the opposition, and the two are putting together a national dialogue to try to deal with these issues that become antagonistic post-electoral period. This is also what is expected of him to make an announcement today. And of course, the matters of security, the country is still in question whether we should be sending our security, personnel to Haiti or not. So I think it's also for him to explain what are the measures, because it's out of question. The country, we are waiting actually the parliament to make a decision on this. The US Congress is also about to make a decision on it. So I think these are issues that would feature in the State of the National address today, for me. But graft, like I said, you cut me short when I was mentioning this. The members of the cabinet that is reading a different script from the president. One minister in charge of public service is still reading different script from the president. The economic advisor is always reading a different script from the president. In certain regimes, President Uhuru Kenyatta in his first term sent some public servants home, through a State of the National address. So the president might make some declaration, might make some announcement to that effect. Maybe not drastic, but might read a riot act in the course of his address today.
Honorable Mutunga, people are expecting something interesting, something novel, something new The president has not been very conservative with his words. He's someone who's known to be very visible, and he speaks every instance he gets. Every one instance he gets, he come out and speak. And there's nothing we've come to expect. We already know what he's going to tell us. But this is the very first time this would be ideally his very first State of the Nation address. Last year, he only addressed the Houses of Parliament during the official opening. Do we expect anything new, apart from what we've heard from the president all along?
I want to go back to the point before I come to this question on why is it taking long, probably, to see this country moving very faster, to see the Kenya Kwanza government delivering. First of all, if you want to build a house that will last 100 years, you lay a good foundation. And it has taken the president that long to lay a very solid foundation for the economy of this country. A lot more, to secure almost everyone. The idea is to try and make sure that you can secure our people. People will have hope. On the other hand, there are several issues, several fields that I expect the president to address. One of them is the progress we are making in polity, in terms of ensuring that our political foundations, our political backgrounds and anchorage is secure, and we are working together with the opposition as a country. And he's giving that space, and he's talked about it many times and said if it is necessary to create the office of the leader of opposition, then so be it. If the leader of opposition finds anything wrong, let him say it. If it looks quite true, then you'll do something about it. If it doesn't look good, if it doesn't have any bearing, then you'll ignore it. So that is one thing. Assuring Kenyans that we are moving together, we do not have to keep talking politics. And I hope this country dissociates itself from that, because we think politics, dream politics throughout. The second issue that I believe the president will address is how he is securing the economy, because that's important. Our economy is extremely fragile, and there are very serious measures that the Kenya Kwanza government has taken to make sure that we have a solid economy that is going to run this country into the future, in the sense that we'll be able to reduce the cost of living, we'll be able to create more jobs for Kenyans, we'll be able to increase wealth for the Kenyans, and so on and so forth. Now, the other issue that I expect, for instance, is food and nutrition security, or the cost of food, in other words. I expect a statement on how we are performing, what we are doing within the sector that fits us, so that we may be able to get cheaper food, quality food, as a country. I also expect the president to talk about the climate action that Kenya is taking, because Kenya is a part of the global community, and we need all to take related but different actions that contribute to the lowering of the amount of greenhouse gas that is discharged into the atmosphere, and therefore, of course, containing the temperatures down. I expect him also to talk about the international relations and the accruing benefits from these international relations. Kenya's friends, new friends, old friends, reinforcing the delicate relations that we've had before, and what are the accruals from these relations? How do these accruals now integrate in the Kenyan economy, and how do we build an economy? Of course, one of the things that has been disturbing the president, and he talked about it during campaign, is the levels of unemployment. I believe he'll talk about that. What about securing the hustler? I do not expect him not to talk about securing the hustler, and the efforts that the government has put into place already to try and make sure that this hustler is more hopeful about their future, is engaged, as it were. Now, then the other one is, of course, the cost of living. I don't expect the president to escape that, because it is dear, it is here, it is real. Kenyans are engaging with it every day, and therefore there will be need for us to, for him to mention. Because the expectations of the Kenyan is, what are you doing?
Yes.
One thing I don't expect the president to say is that there will be subsidy. Because first of all, we have
he has been clear about that. He has been clear about
that. That's why he will not talk about it.
Okay.
And it's because Actually, it is not Kenya which has the highest. I saw that clip. Somebody saying Kenya has the highest cost of fuel. It's not true.
Okay.
Our neighbors here, Tanzania, have higher because they are VAT is 18%.
The reports is different.
18%,
but gentlemen, our time is up, so I'll give you each a minute to give us your final remarks. Start with you, Wakili.
Thank you so much. I think it is important for Kenyans to watch the president's speech today, because the president is not just, the president is a symbol of our national unity, and is also what keeps us together as Kenyans. His office is a very important office. I think one issue that should not be left behind is about gender equality and also the number of women representation in government. I think the president spoke about it the other day when he was talking to the CS Treasury about the number of women in the pending verification committee. So I think the president, what he has done is having an office of the women advisor. And I think that is a very important office. And I think what Parliament should do is to look how do we fix this office within the national framework of our nation? How do we ensure that women are represented? And lastly, I think the president has gotten a win towards his State of the Nation address by saving Governor Kawira by the Senate. So I think that will even amplify the message to women that you are safe in government.
Okay.
Thank you.
Daniel?
I don't know whether he's the president who said the governor. I mean, it's quite interesting term.
He's taking credit for it.
Yeah, but that's fine. One, the State of Nation address is an opportunity, I think, to fast track. It's a president's platform, to be late on those progresses. However, Fred, I am concerned about the post-State of the Nation address, because Parliament always debate that address. Mm-hmm. And this is why I had mentioned about the quality of discussions that goes on in Parliament. I am expecting that the members of both houses to look keenly into this particular address and give it a touch of objectivity, give it a touch of quality representation, and the reality and the justice that it deserves, because that is what we need as the citizens of the Republic, to debate this not from a partisan partisan view of it. And finally, I am looking forward to the report of the National Dialogue Committee. Quite interesting to know exactly how they will have reached to the state of cohesion and the state of harmony and agreement on the electoral reforms in this country that always become antagonistic post-electoral period. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Finally, Honorable Mutunga.
Thank you very much, Ndimuli. First of all, I would not expect any member of parliament, whether in Azimio or in Kenya Kwanza or whichever other party that is, because there is a due recognition of Jubilee. So to walk out, right? Because there is a national dialogue, and we have agreed to talk out these issues, including cost of living, including there's an agenda that's on the table. So in view, in respect of the agreed position, we expect everybody to sit in and listen to the president. The second thing that I expect, and let me correct some notion, the president did not save the governor of Meru. Senate saved the governor of Meru.
The president had nothing.
He had absolutely nothing. That one we are sure. I'm talking from the point of view that I am a member of parliament, I am from Meru, a leader from Meru, and the president was very clear to us. In this matter, please, I am clean. Okay. And I think that's a position that I believe we should take. So the other issue is to tell the Meru people that all is not lost. I think what we need to do is to get out of this quickly and just organize ourselves so that we can fast-track development initiatives like the others, move together like the others, then they be able to engage and lobby like the others. So okay. We have an opportunity. And the final thing is that whenever the president talks, and I've watched him talk many times, he rekindles hope in the people. I am sure today he's going to look at the eyes of Kenyans and assure them that I'll fix this. And I'm sure Kenyans will feel better at the end of the day than
And our question today is, what do you hope the president will address in his State of the Nation speech later this afternoon? Thank you so much, Dr. John Mutunga, MP Tigania West, Francis Wanjiku, legal and political advisor, and political analyst Daniel Orogo for being our panelist this morning and for your opinions on these issues that we've been discussing.
Always a pleasure.
Let me go through this editorial comment as we come to the end of this session. The state of the devolution in Kenya today is currently at a crossroads, and it is imperative that we recognize its significance and work collectively to defend and protect this crucial element of our constitution. 10 years after its introduction, devolution stands as a beacon of hope for a more equitable and inclusive Kenya. One of the most pressing issues that need careful consideration is a growing One of the most pressing issues that need careful consideration is a growing demand for ward-specific allocations by members of the county assemblies. While it is essential to empower our MCAs, we must ensure that their demands align with the Constitution principles and do not undermine the established framework. Granting MCAs disproportionate influence over the executive could disrupt the balance of power in the devolved system of government and ultimately harm its functionality. The frequent threats of impeachment against county governments and the constant pressure on county executives with endless demands are detrimental to the progress of devolution. Such actions can erode the core principles of devolution, including the separation of powers between the different arms of government. On the other hand, county governors must recognize their role as public servants and not as all-knowing small gods. They should be open to constructive criticism, feedback, and collaboration with the public. At the same time, senators have a crucial role in defending and upholding devolution. Their focus should be on supporting and strengthening county governments, not undermining them for personal or political gain. Members of the national executive, too, must also respect the autonomy of the devolved governments. County governments are not their puppets to be manipulated as they see fit. Lastly, public participation remains the cornerstone of devolution, and citizens should take their responsibility seriously. By actively engaging in local governance, the public can help shape the direction and effectiveness of their devolved units. And that is a TV47 editorial comment this morning.